Good afternoon. Thanks for joining our webinar today on top 6 financial considerations for retirement. We have Cornerstone Wealth's John Brown and Mark Thornburgh presenting for us today. We're going to go ahead and get started in just a few moments.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jonathan Brown. I'm a certified financial planner and wealth advisor here with Cornerstone Wealth in our Greenville, South Carolina office. And I'm joined today by Mark Thornburgh, also a wealth advisor here in our Greenville office.
Good afternoon, folks. Thanks for joining us today.
And we'd like to welcome you to our second bi-weekly installment of our financial planning related topic. So today we're going to be covering the top 6 financial considerations for retirement. And we'll just start with a brief introduction. Cornerstone Wealth is an independent wealth management firm that's headquartered in Huntersville, North Carolina. We have 7 offices in North and South Carolina. We serve our clients who are families and business owners and helping them with their financial planning and investment management needs. As I mentioned earlier, today's webcast is going to be a financial planning related topic. We're going to be holding these webcasts every other week on Tuesday afternoon, so please be sure to tune in for future webcasts. In 2 weeks, we're going to be following up this with the top 6 emotional considerations for retirement. If you're interested in the investment management topics, we're continuing to hold our weekly market update webcasts hosted by our Chief Investment Officer, Cliff Hodge, and founding partner, Jeff Carbone. So please visit cwgadvisors.com to subscribe to our newsletter, and you'll receive the weekly market update emails and invitations to these webinars that we're doing. So why the top 6? Well, there are a lot of important financial considerations for retirement. We felt like these 6 were the most important and most common problems that we're asked to solve and most common issues that people are dealing with. We also felt that there was some good symmetry with our 6-step financial planning process that we'll review here at the end. And then lastly, when to start planning for retirement. Really, there's no time that is too early to start planning, but we feel like this presentation is really best for those of us that are 5 to 10 years away from retirement. And even if you're a little bit closer to retirement than that 5 to 10 year mark, it's still never too late to start planning. Of course, we want to make this as interactive as possible. So you'll see that there is a Q&A icon either at the top or bottom of your screen. So feel free to type some questions in there. We already have one question that we'll get to here at the end of the presentation. So we'll go ahead and get things kicked off here with question or consideration number 1. Mark, I imagine it's no coincidence that we have this listed as number 1. Maybe tell us why defining our retirement goals and their costs would be a high priority.
Absolutely. I mean, if you want to have a good, successful, smooth transition into retirement, it's critically important to go ahead and figure out what that's going to cost and what your goals are, the types of things that you want to accomplish in retirement. I think the first thing I'd like to do is dispel a myth. A lot of advisors out there say that you need to plan to have 80% of whatever your earnings income is while you're working. You need to have that in retirement. I don't think that's a real good rule of thumb. I think a lot of times, think about it. You want to cut back 20% right off the bat. That could be a challenge. So you want to figure out really what your lifestyle is going to look like. What kind of dreams have you had about retirement, and what is it going to cost in order to be able to do that? And that way you're planning in advance for it, and you can make sure that there aren't any shortcomings or disappointments in your retirement. It varies widely as far as what from person to person as to what they're going to require in order to be comfortable in their retirement. I think the point of what does a fulfilling retirement lifestyle look like? There's so many things to think about in your retirement life. Are you going to travel more? That could be expensive depending on the type of travel. Are you going to be a world traveler, a cruiser? Are you just going to get in an RV and travel the country? That could be, it's definitely something you want to plan for. Some folks relocate when they retire so that they can live closer to their children or grandchildren. That could take you to a more expensive part of the country to live. You've got to plan in advance for that. There are those that dream of just buying that RV or a sailboat so that they can travel and live that leisure retirement lifestyle. All good things. And then there are those that dream of just becoming a benefactor over a charity or an endowment. And that definitely takes some planning and structure to put in place for something like that. The other side, we talk about retiring. It's very important not just to think about quitting work, but what are you going to retire to? It's always important to have something to retire to. So that's why we bring up here, what hobbies have you neglected during your working years that you'd like to get back into? Is it time to write that best-selling novel? There's software platforms that cost money for that. Do you want to unleash that inner Picasso and get that going? Well, there's maybe lessons there, but on a more realistic basis, those that just want to become a better golfer or tennis player, that's joining some clubs, getting some lessons. All of those things have costs associated with them. And planning ahead of time just makes it that much easier to make sure that you're able to afford that and be comfortable in doing that during your retirement. Now, in light of some of the recent market volatility we've had, I think it's a really important time to talk about how important that clients understand the risk that they're taking within their portfolios. What do you think, John?
Yeah, definitely, Mark. So we have number 2 is understanding the risk in your portfolio. We've heard different financial firms refer to the 5 or 10 years before retirement as kind of like the red zone for retirement. So think of when in football, when the team gets the ball within the 20-yard line, they call it the red zone because it's the time that they're expected to score. So this is the critical time to really assess the risk that's in your portfolio and make sure that your portfolio is structured appropriately to provide for short-term income needs, but also long-term growth. And just looking at what the markets have been through so far in 2020, currently we're starting to see parts of the economy open back up, and the markets have responded positively to the virus news getting a little bit better, but still it's a stark reminder of how volatile and unpredictable the stock market can be in the short term. The month of March experienced 2 of the 5 worst days in the history of the S&P 500. So we know that putting all your money in the stock market is not an appropriate thing to do if you're within several years of retirement, just because of its unpredictable and volatile nature. But still, the stock market provides really one of the best avenues for growing your retirement assets, overcoming taxes, inflation, and healthcare costs, things that are going to erode the purchasing power of your hard-earned money. So it's all about finding balance. And the way that we go about finding that balance is through a comprehensive financial plan. We will look at your current income sources or projected income sources in retirement, what your income needs are, going back to consideration number 1, kind of defining those goals and figuring out what retirement is going to cost. And that's going to allow us to project into the future what rate of withdrawal or distribution rate your portfolio is going to require. That is one way of kind of arriving at an appropriate level of risk for your overall portfolio, because it's based on what you actually need your money to perform for you. And we do that by utilizing a really neat software package called eMoney. We have another software package called Hidden Levers, which is done more for risk analysis and portfolio stress testing. And that's a good way of anticipating how your current portfolio might behave in a typical recession or even a pandemic or a high interest rate or inflationary environment that we might experience in the future. So each of these different tools are things that we utilize to help determine the appropriate amount of risk. And also with financial planning software, we can stress test your financial plan to see what it might look like if early in retirement we experience the bear market, essentially what we've gone through the last couple of months, and to just ensure that your portfolio and your financial plan can withstand, kind of being the victim of bad timing, again, retiring in a year where the market, is negative. And then I think just some prudent things to do would be to allocate short-term money more conservatively, so make sure that you kind of have a short-term bucket of money, whether it's 2 years of income needs, 3 years of income needs, maybe a little bit longer to be more on the safe side, but allocate that money in cash, government bonds, the types of investments that aren't going to fluctuate much when we do go through disruptions in the economy and the markets like we've been through the last couple of months. But then at the same time, there is some risk involved with being too conservative with your long-term money. So, one thing to think about is just remember what it used to cost to go to the grocery store and buy enough groceries to feed your family, and then think about, what that cost is going to look like, 20 years ago compared to 20 years from now. So we know that we're going to be dealing with inflation, taxes, and healthcare costs. In my mind, those are really the three things that are going to erode the purchasing power of your money. And if you have your long-term money positioned for growth, at least you're going to have a good plan in place of overcoming those three obstacles that are going to, again, erode the purchasing power of your money. So kind of common theme to point number 2 here is with financial planning, you can come up with the appropriate balance of risk in your portfolio, and also help keep yourself invested, knowing that there is a plan in place when we do go through unexpected events like the COVID-19 pandemic. Moving on to number 3, Mark, we've got be sure to not overlook the cost of healthcare in retirement. Tell us why that's important.
Absolutely. This one's a little bit more complex. There's a lot of moving parts to it. And I think it's one that's often overlooked because most of us spend our lives working for corporations, companies that have picked up the tab on that insurance. So we really don't pay a whole lot of attention to what we pay or what it costs to provide ourselves health care. So when that time comes, it just is overlooked. The one other assumption is that, Medicare, when I turn 65, I'll just sign up for Medicare and I'll be fine. I won't have to worry about anything else. The government will just take care of me. And that's not 100% true either. One factor is if you're looking at retiring before 65, and I often have clients asking about being able to do that, one thing they rarely think about is bridging that health care from their job till they reach 65 and can sign up for Medicare. That can be very costly. COBRA is one of the tools that can bridge you up to 18 months between leaving a job and going and signing up for Medicare. But those are pretty high premiums, and many times that'll cause my clients to say, hey, maybe we're going to wait and go ahead and wait till 65 and not have to spend so much early out of our portfolios, which is an early tax basically on your early retirement income. Now, there is one strategy that can work if we've got folks that have after-tax sources of income, buckets of money that buckets make it sound kind of funny, but cash that's been allocated and saved up that is not taxable, say from a Roth IRA or even from an investment account, that they can use to pay the premiums and pay for their lifestyle that will allow them to qualify for the Affordable Care Act coverage. And that way they can make it bridge from pre-65 to Medicare eligible. Once you get into Medicare, then you've got premiums that come out of your Social Security. People don't always think about that. And the premiums can range from $150 a month up to almost $500 a month. And that's deducted right off the top of Social Security. People see a certain amount of income coming in at age when they retire or full retirement age. Well, they don't always think about the fact that some of these expenses are going to be coming right off the top and won't be hitting their wallet, along with the taxation side of it. Then you've got the supplement plans on top of that that can range from $300 to $500 a month, and these are plans that have to be chosen when you're signing up for Medicare within a 6-month window around your 65th birthday. We like to, at Cornerstone Wealth, we like to walk our clients through that selection process, make sure they get that taken care of in a timely basis. And then that's also part of their long-term financial plan. So we get all those things taken care of and buttoned up for them to make that transition into retirement much more smooth and easy. One interesting statistic out there is that a couple that is at age 65 can expect to pay $285,000 in healthcare expenses during retirement. So that's something you have to plan for. Something you have to be ready to afford in retirement. And then the last topic here on healthcare we've got is long-term care. How are you going to pay for that? If you're not planning up front for a potential long-term care event, and statistics show 60 to 70% of all people have a long-term care event. And what is that? That's being hospitalized for care over beyond a 90-day period. People just assume, well, Medicare is going to take care of it. Well, no, they don't. They'll take care of the first 60 days at 100% and then another 30 days at about 90%. After that, you're on your own, and you have to come up with those coverage for those expenses. Now we can go through with these planning platforms that John was talking about earlier, where we can simulate that. What happens what if at age 80, you or your spouse end up in the hospital and it turns into a long-term care event? We can expand that out, maybe make it a year or 2 years, because we don't know. Can your portfolio, can your retirement assets weather that storm for you, or would it be a good idea to protect those assets by having a long-term care insurance policy that'll pick up at least a portion, if not all of those expenses, thereby really ensuring your retirement and making sure that you've got a good long-term, healthy, comfortable retirement ahead of you. Now, those are actually all the key healthcare issues we think you need to consider. But there's another one that's a great one for getting ready for retirement, and that's debt. John, how should our clients handle their debt before they retire?
Yeah, so Mark, we've got number 4, pay down debt before you retire. And I think this is probably one of the more flexible considerations of the 6 that we put together. By no means is there kind of a hard and fast rule of making sure that you have 0 debt entering retirement. It's just a good idea to address the debt situation and just understand how your current debt and debt that you might carry into retirement is going to affect your income needs when you get into retirement. And I think the biggest reason for that is those 5 to 10 years before retirement are typically going to be the years where you're earning the most income throughout your career. For a lot of people, they're years where their children or financially dependent family members have left the house. So their expense needs might have come down a little bit. So it's a great time to put together a plan of addressing debt. And it could be something as simple as, planning to downsize your house and get rid of a mortgage that you no longer need, and have a more appropriate living situation in retirement. It's also very top of mind for a lot of retirees. A recent survey showed that 40% of retirees listed paying down debt as their number 1 priority. So once you've realized that this is something that you want to accomplish, the best thing to do is just to list all the loans that you have on a single sheet of paper or a spreadsheet, list the interest rates, the monthly payments that you have, and start attacking the ones with the highest interest rates first. Those are typically credit cards or any sort of consumer debt. And our eMoney, our financial planning software, has a great feature that our clients have access to that actually allows them to aggregate all of their financial accounts into one place. So it's just a good way to kind of get line of sight on everything. So if you have a credit card with a couple different companies, a mortgage, co-signed student loan for children, whatever it might be, you're able to kind of aggregate this all in one place. And the software actually has a spending tracker so that you can kind of track and categorize your spending habits, which then make it easier to free up more of your income to address your debt situation. So a lot of good tools at our disposal to help with this. And the reason why we feel like that this one makes the list is really this third point here. The less debt you have is going to then equal the lower fixed monthly expenses throughout retirement. And going back to considerations number 1 and number 2, when we're trying to project our income needs in retirement, if our income needs are maybe more variable and not necessarily fixed monthly expenses, it just allows us to adapt a little bit easier to potential lifestyle changes that you might experience in retirement. So just providing you with more flexibility. And Mark, we're moving on to number 5. So we talk a lot about diversification from an investment perspective, and not putting all your eggs in one basket, and having investments across multiple asset classes, owning stocks and bonds in a portfolio. Tell us why diversification from a tax perspective of your savings is an important consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a real important one, and one we like to work with our clients on. And the first bullet kind of spells it all out. Most baby boomers' retirement savings are held in pre-tax 401k, IRA, or pension plans. Okay, what does that mean? Well, it's critical to know that anything taken out of those plans for income during retirement is going to be taxed at ordinary income rates. Now, when we work with our clients and putting together that long-term financial plan, one of the things we do is make sure that our clients are diversified in that they have some non-taxable sources of income during retirement. We're in this progressive tax system, right? I think most people know that. And up to $20,000, you see you're getting hit as a married couple, $20,000 in income, you're taxed at a 10% rate. For the next, from 19,000 up to 80,000, then you're hit with 12% for that range of income. And if you happen to cross over the $80,000 level, then there's a 10% jump that takes you to 22% in your income tax rate. Now, if you can avoid that, if there's a means that we can lower that reported income or the taxable income, we can avoid a 10% tax hit. That ends up putting a lot more money in your pocket for a better, more enjoyable, more liquid lifestyle. So we work with our clients to make sure that we have set aside those types of savings accounts so that you can do that and have a better, have a better income flow in retirement. Now, this is why it's important that you maximize your non-deductible after-tax 401k contributions, as these can all later be converted to a Roth. And that's what will provide that tax-free income in retirement. Now, there are backdoor and mega backdoor contribution strategies, but these rules really vary depending upon your specific 401k plan and, of course, your income level. And we'd be happy to explore these with you on an individual basis. Just reach out via our website or even through the question box below, and we'll make sure that we can sit down and go through those with you. And now our next topic, number 6, is an interesting item because as a parent myself with adult children, the youngest turning 30 soon here, which I can't believe, I've learned you really never stop being a parent. And it's important really to be able to be a financial resource for your children when they need you to be. So planning for that is another great thing to do. And advice for John is don't be planning on breaking your children's dinner plates when they turn legal age. I'll warn you right now.
That's right, Mark. Yeah, I know I'm the beneficiary of a lot of good parental advice from you, and I appreciate your guidance in that area. My wife and I were joking the other day of how many more years we have until our youngest, who are twin boys that are turning 3 this year, are going to be on their own. And I guess your comment means that we'll never stop being parents, and I think that truly is a blessing too.
Yep.
So we acknowledge that a lot of our clients and a lot of folks out there, it is important to be there to support your children or other family members that might be in need or might be struggling through a tough time. We just feel like it's really important to just take that into account as you're approaching retirement and maybe even think of what your monthly income need for support for that child or family member might be, so that it doesn't catch you by surprise when you might be needing to spend a little bit more on a monthly basis that you hadn't anticipated. And this is a very common issue for a lot of folks. I think one interesting stat here, it shows that almost 60% of baby boomers with children offer some sort of financial support to their children. So it could be something, as common as auto insurance, or keeping them on their phone plan, to something a little bit more expensive, like helping with student loan payments. Student loan balances have gotten a lot of press recently, and especially for kind of the millennial generation, your age 35 and under adults right now. And interesting statistic here is the average 35-year-old that has student loan debt has an average balance of over $42,000. So there's definitely, between just the number of baby boomers out there that are approaching retirement that are still helping to support their children, and the number of millennials out there that have student loans, we definitely think this is going to be a common topic here and in the near future. So when it comes to how to address this issue and how to really help your children get on the road to financial independence, we encourage our clients to introduce us to their children, grandchildren, or family members that might need our services. We can help them with the financial planning software that I mentioned earlier, and the budget tools that it offers to kind of help them really just become more financially responsible. And so I think that would kind of be the first advantage of doing it. And then the second thing is it's only going to better prepare them to potentially receive an inheritance from you down the road. If they have gotten on the road to financial independence and learned how to be good stewards of their own income and their own savings, they're only going to be better stewards of funds that they might inherit from you down the road. So that concludes our top 6 financial considerations for retirement. The next thing we wanted to just talk through real quickly is, how does Cornerstone Wealth prepare you for retirement? Well, again, the top 6 was not a coincidence, because we do follow a 6-step process listed here in working with our clients. This actually follows, relatively close to the first couple of, points that we made in this presentation, of really taking the time to understand, you and your particular situation, what makes you unique, and how your plan needs to be built for those particular needs. We spend time analyzing your current financial situation, looking at your investments, your outstanding debt, your insurance coverage, to make sure that there's no blind spots in your financial life. We review your tax and estate documents to be sure that everything is coordinated together as it should be. We would provide a financial plan and an investment management plan. So I like to use the analogy that a financial plan is like the roadmap of your financial life, and the investment plan is the vehicle that's going to help get you there. So both of those things are going to require regular oversight and maintenance on a regular basis. And as you can see, the last 2 points here are monitoring and tracking progress. That's how we do that with regular performance reporting and account reviews, but also reviewing and refining your plan. As the years go by, as your life might change, as your needs change, it's an important thing to be sure to update the plan to make sure that we're keeping you on track to have a smooth and safe retirement. We'll then jump into any questions. And we did have one question earlier. Someone was asking about applying for Social Security when they turned 70, and I believe their spouse was a little bit younger than them and did not have their own earnings history. So kind of asking about the spousal benefit with Social Security. So I just want to give a real general answer for that, because this is probably something that's better discussed just one-on-one with your financial planner. But we do encourage that people reach out to Social Security. And I know it's tough to schedule an in-person meeting right now, but you can definitely schedule a call with them over the phone and just understand your options with Social Security. Several years ago, they changed the rules where you used to be able to do what's called a file and suspend method, where one spouse could collect on the other spouse's benefit and let theirs grow to the maximum benefit at age 70. And that is still available, but it's only available for people that were born before 1954. So I think for For the gentleman that was asking this question, if he's almost turning 70, then they might have access to that option. But again, Social Security is one of those things where we could probably spend a whole webcast just talking about Social Security. So we encourage that all of the folks out there that are tuning in today or that might listen to this recording in the near future, that to contact your financial planner here with Cornerstone and figure out how Social Security fits into your retirement plan, because there are still a number of different options as far as when to collect it, whether or not to utilize any sort of spousal benefit or widow's benefit that you might have access to. So again, just want to thank everybody for joining us here today. We want to just give a quick plug to our website, cwgadvisors.com. Please visit the website, and if you haven't already, sign up for our weekly market update. We are currently doing those market updates by webcast, similar to what we're doing today, and Cliff Hodge and Jeff Carbone are going to be holding the next weekly market update tomorrow, Wednesday at 4 p.m. 2 weeks from today, on Tuesday, May 26th, Jeff Carbone and Jared DiMarzio are going to be hosting the follow-up webcast to this, the top 6 emotional considerations for retirement. So again, we hope that you and your families are all staying safe and healthy out there. We appreciate you tuning in today, and please do not hesitate to contact us and visit our website if we can be of service to you.